This month on Inquisitive, Your Miracle Resource, the podcast. Katherine and Sarah discuss 5 tips to help your workplace create a culture that communicates with respect. Welcome back to Inquisitive, Your Miracle Resource, the podcast. I'm your host, Sarah Rustin, and I'm here with Katherine Miracle. So this month we're going to be talking about a few different things, but we want to start with some feedback that we actually received from our audience. I'm going to turn it over to Katherine, and we're going to kind of explain the overview of what we got back. So Katherine, do you want to let everyone know?
Yes, and I want to thank you so much, Sarah, because when we created Inquisitive, we want it to be a forum for you to share in a safe, confidential way and give you some solutions. So here's what came in this month. And these things, for Sarah and I, it breaks our heart that these situations happen because we know that this could have been prevented on the part of not the person who wrote in, but their employer. With a little bit of training, this wouldn't have happened. So our person who wrote in was an employee who started a position and was promised one thing. And then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks later, that was taken away. And the other part was they were not able to use their skills because no one was inquisitive. No one during training or hiring really listened or observed this employee to see the skill sets that they had. So they were put in the wrong position, but B, the person who was put in the right position that the person who wrote to us sent in, that person didn't succeed. And our person who wrote to us said they felt like it was broken promises. They felt that, they were overlooked and they ended up leaving this company. It could have been different. It could have been a listening and observing situation. And not all employers get it wrong. We know that when we say to someone that something has changed, like we promised something and then we can't fulfill it, if the company explained why, if the company had said, okay, in 6 months, there's going to be a change, just hang on. But it was just like, no, that's not going to happen. The loyalty goes away, the above and beyond goes away, and it's sad. It really is. So I want to thank the person who wrote to us to tell us this, because you think about, okay, what could they have done differently? Because when he wrote to us, he was very accountable and he said, is there anything I could have done differently? Should I have shown them my skills? And again, the communication is important, but he had shared over a long period of time all of the skills and wanting to do things and kept getting passed over. Now, I want you guys to know as you listen to the story, you may have felt this way. And that's why Sarah and I are here. We are always here to talk about the situations that you go through. But we do want to give you some tips today. They're going to be in my LinkedIn article in the end of April. And Sarah's going to lead us into the tips. And I think as you hear the tips, you'll see the things that you want to do as an employee and as an employer. But I do want to take the time to thank him for sending in that story, because we all know what that feels to have those broken promises. But we also know that with a little bit of training, and that's why we come into the workplace with our 54 trainers. You can pick anyone you want. We can Zoom, we could see you face to face, but we want to talk with you and we want you to listen. We want to listen to you, to what is happening, so we can prevent good people from leaving. So thanks, Sarah.
Absolutely. It's too little too late, unfortunately. And I think that with the proper training, it could have absolutely been avoided. But thank you to the person that sent that in.
Sarah, you said it best, because, I think as employers, we get very busy in goals and meeting goals, and we may be a little reluctant to bring in someone we don't know. But by listening to this podcast, and Sarah, I want Sarah to start going to some of these with us, because she's so good at listening and so good at looking at all of the options, just like all of our trainers are. So you're getting to know Sarah and I, feel comfortable with us. And again, you can tell us anything. It will be confidential. Absolutely. Sorry, Sarah, go ahead.
No, you're okay. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. I think that's a wonderful thing to make. It is daunting to have somebody come in from the outside. And initial, yes, but when you take that plunge, it's a wonderful thing. And it could definitely benefit.
Well said.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to get into these 5 tips to help your workplace create a culture that communicates with respect. So, a lot of times people don't feel valued. And are you valued at your workplace? So, we're going to start off with the first one. Have you ever heard of the phrase, just to be honest?
You know something bad's coming after that, right?
It's almost like the preface of like no offense and then leading into something offensive. So even though you're trying to say something and be humble and honest, are you really understanding how they felt when you said that? And I think that's an important thing to keep in mind is even though you're prefacing it, it's almost saying like the whole, like I said, like the whole no offense and then leading with something that could potentially hurt their feelings. Consider what is necessary to share. And I think that, you have to watch and you really have to be able to read someone and to start to learn their body language and to understand that some things when you say might not come out right. You have to be able to watch the person's reaction. I think you have to watch that. I feel like a lot of times people always kind of make the joke of sometimes when people are talking, they don't hear others. And it's almost like there's a buzzing in their brain when they talk and they don't observe the room. I think that's an important thing to consider what you share before you share it.
And hear what they want to hear. This is a big one. People hear what they want to hear. But the honest situation, why this tip is so important, we want to share the story with you guys. So being honest, of course, is important, but all of the details sometimes are not. So let's pretend that you need to cancel on a client because you have a better opportunity. Do you tell the client that you're rescheduling? Well, I'm meeting with someone who's far more important than you, that can do more for me, that can bring in more money to me. We would not do that. So saying, well, I have to be honest, I'm able to have a meeting with so-and-so. You really need to say, I'm double scheduled, because you really are double scheduled. And could you make it a more convenient time for them? Now, I want you guys to know, we do little things every day, I'm guilty of them, that can make people, just by our words and not thinking through, make people feel not valued. And that's what today's podcast is about. We get letters, direct messages from people who say they don't feel valued by their employer. And remember, each person feels valued differently. So to say to someone, you know what, you're not as important, without saying the words exactly, that's not making someone feel valued. And compliments that are genuine and authentic are wonderful. But to say to someone something, to give them a compliment, but then tell them, well, somebody's more important than you don't want to do that. And we know that. And you can hear by us sharing this story with you, we never want to share the direct details because we want to keep the confidentiality. But the person who wrote us this felt very much that their time was not valued and will not work with this person again. So the being honest piece of, oh, I'm meeting somebody who's, far more skilled and, can do so much more for me. Again, that never needed to be said. It would have been fine to say, I'm in a situation where I'm double booked. Can we pick a time that's convenient for you? That would have been fine. Why go into all that detail that then made someone feel not valued and not want to work with them again?
I've been there. Yeah, like I've always told people to watch how they say things because it's projected. It's that backhanded compliment in the workplace environment that just was completely unnecessary.
So true. And Sarah, like you said, we've been on the end of it where we didn't think through and said something that maybe made someone not feel valued, but we've also been on the receiving end of it. Excellent. Thanks for going over that tip. And then the second tip?
Second tip is seek to impress every day. So you want to make sure that you're bringing your best attitude from the colors that you wear to the physical representation to also your mental representation of how you approach the workplace.
And Sarah, there are so many videos out there and so many, you should do this and you should do that. And at Miracle Resources, we always believe that being your best self is determined by you. So when we say camera ready to one person to come on to all of the Zoom calls and WebEx and Ring Central and Teams and Google Hangout, camera ready means different things. But we do know, and it is a fact proven by studies, people dress for the people that they're going to be meeting with. So shortly, this is taped on a Sunday morning. Sarah and I are probably going to, get out of these clothes, take off our makeup and relax and, do a family Sunday. But for you, we chose what we wore. We chose to put on makeup, put on earrings, do all that. But again, that's us. Everyone is different. If you're doing a podcast that's about hard work out in the field, you're going to be in that zone. So we're never telling anyone what to do, but we're telling them, seek to impress. Think about the people that you work with. It's understanding what motivates them. And when we talk about impressing our employers, we'll go back to the first story that we talked about. The gentleman who shared with us that they felt that there were broken promises and they were passed over for promotion, he said to me, I know that you want me to be accountable. Should I have shared my resume more? Should I have volunteered for projects in the company more? Should I have talked in meetings more? And I said, well, let's talk about what you did. Did you talk in meetings? Did you contribute? Did you bring ideas? Did you in your emails, instead of saying, I need this, this, and this, go to, good morning, how are you? I hope you had a great weekend. Wanted to share, I'm bringing this to the meeting, and do you need help with the 3 things you're bringing? Those are 2 very different emails. And we talk about this a lot. These are just little tips and tricks that we work in the workplace to help people build their brand, team, and revenue and elevate their culture to high performance. It takes a second to write, good morning, how are you? Hope you had a great weekend. That's a very different opening to an email than, this is horrible, you need to fix this. And we hear from a lot of people write to us that their supervisors will write like, this is terrible, this is horrible, every email, every response. So we need to think about that communication. That's really important. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, and to touch a little bit on that, I did see something where someone had made, I believe it was just like a short clip video, and it says, have you ever received a 1-word response from one of your leadership members and you thought you were getting fired that day because they felt disvalued?
Yes.
It took 2 seconds, and I was sitting there and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I guess, yeah, if someone just says 1 word to you and you worked so hard on a project, understand that everyone's busy, but if you would have been worded more than just an sure, it would have changed the value of the employee. And it's also about the mindset. And I know my mother-in-law, like, bless her heart, she always texts me
I can't wait to meet her. Like,
she's so funny.
Great.
So, but she texted me one morning, and then she called me and she said, once a week, I'm going to text you. And I'm going to say, choose to be happy. It's all about the way you wake up.
Aww.
And I thought that was such a beautiful, like, simple thing. And then she showed her, I guess as an example, she showed her value as well. But I thought it was such a great thing. It's, if you wake up and you can choose to make it a great day. You can choose to make it an okay day. But if you choose to walk into work and you choose to start on a positive note, you'd be shocked at your mindset would change so fast throughout the day. And in turn, your attitude would change.
Your mother-in-law is amazing. And it is true, what we wake up to and we make a choice. But let's talk about another thing that came in through our direct messages that relates to this tip. And that is not responding at all to an email. What does that say? And I agree with you, Sarah. I could see as an employee doing a big project and turning it in, or doing something that you did to impress. Our last tip was always try to impress, always bring your best. But if you worked on a project, sent it, and then to a team and no one responded, like, not even, I got it, I'm excited to look at it later, that's fine. But to not respond at all, that's the key. So, we all have to be better. And it's not that we're saying all employers are bad or all employees are bad. We know that this is a team. We work with teams. That's why we want to see everybody in the workplace. And if we're doing individual coaching, sure, we can coach employees, we can coach leadership, but the key is that to, as a team, talk about that kind of communication. So Sarah, thank you. And what was the third tip?
Listen and observe.
Oh, this
So,
one is good. Go ahead, Sarah.
so do you understand or do you judge the situation? The more knowledge you gain, the more you can help.
Okay, this one we do have a story for, Sarah, and I want to share. This one is when we have frontline workers, especially during the pandemic, sad but true. There are customers who come in and they're on the attack. Your employee, your frontline worker, I don't care if you're the CEO, there are people, it may be vendors, it may be shareholders, they're on the attack. They come at the attack. You cannot even get a word in. So we know that many of our clients have tape. They have a tape, so you can see those interactions. And another piece is did you ask your employee what happened? Their side of it, not your understanding of it, but their understanding of it. It takes a minute. And when we listen and observe, we can learn more. Then we can give feedback, and the feedback should be given one-on-one. Yes, there are teachable moments, and those are wonderful. We love teachable moments. But we have many people who write in and say, I was put on the spot in front of the entire company and used as a teachable moment. No one likes that. Why not meet with the person, tell them, well, ask them what happened, how can we create a solution, and maybe together we can present that solution based on what happened to you. Those are powerful moments. The key for all of us is to take the time to think 360. How does the person feel? Okay, we want to know what's going on with the customer. How are they doing? But if they came in screaming, we need to know, is our employee okay? Is this person all right? And then when we come up with a solution, why not come up with a team solution instead of, oh, I heard this happened and here's what you should have done. So that was a powerful one that came in because I think that's happened to all of us. And you guys know that I teach college in addition to being the CEO of Miracle Resources. I don't like to do teachable moments based on someone else's situation, especially if it's something that could be very emotional. I like to talk with the student about what happened and understand what happened. And then together we can come back to the class and share, hey, in case you run into this situation, or in case you're looking for this research, try this. It's empowerment. It's engagement. So those are my two for tip 3, empowerment, engagement based on listening and observing. So thank you for that one, Sarah. I feel really passionate about that because I've been on the bad end of it, and I've been on the end of walking out of a meeting thinking, oh, I should have listened and observed. I should have researched more, especially when I was a young manager. Before I got a lot of training, before I got my MBA, I definitely would go back and handle staff meetings differently because I think there's a lot of pre-work that can be done. And then in the meeting, it can be far more productive. And we help with that. You know, Sarah, a lot of people don't know we do meeting analysis. It is so awesome. We get videotape from clients. Here's our staff meeting. What did you think? How did you think it went? Are we communicating as a team? Are we reflecting our culture? And I get the opportunity not to judge, but to give a little bit of feedback. And it's the feedback I needed. No one's perfect. I needed that as a young manager. So thank you for tip 3. I really like that one. Thanks for letting me share that one.
I like that one too. I like the idea of the recording meetings and then being able to go back. And it's nothing negative. It's either like an audit or just telling you like pointers and tips, because you're right. As the manager, sometimes you have, or leadership or even employee, we're juggling 10 different things at different times. So that's what we're here to help with, is we'll be the person that can help you understand what the environment looks like as you're teaching or projecting or explaining what has to happen in a meeting. Then you could go back and like reevaluate yourself. And I think that's a wonderful. I love that.
And
But I love
Sarah,
that too.
I forgot to tell you, I have a bonus to number 3, a little bonus. And it's so imperative. If you ask, and this is one of the things we teach in our trainings, ask your employees how they feel at the end of the week about the communication that's occurred. Ask yourself, how do you feel? So again, it's not the boss that's always the problem. It could be that a coworker, the way they communicate to the boss. When we did this exercise, here's what we found. We found that employees would say, the whole week I got, this was bad. Why aren't we doing this? Why isn't this happening? What's going on? We've got to fix this. Those were the words that were used. Now, once we went through that, and again, we had CEOs that said, I feel like on the attack from employees who are saying, well, why aren't we doing this? Or why is this happening? So everybody talked about the language and didn't point fingers, but it was like we did a survey. So nobody knew who said what. And when everybody saw the words come up on computer screen that were used to each other, everybody agreed it's got to change. It's got to be better. Don't tell us you have a great culture. Don't say you have a great culture when the words on the screen are, why did this happen? That was stupid. Are you an idiot? That was one of the ones that things that came up on screen. Horrific ways to talk to people. And then change happened. So we would like at Miracle Resources to be part of that change. It is not easy to look at words on the screen that were used by employees and team members to each other, but you have to fix it. And we want to be a part of that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great point. And this kind of leads into tip number 4, which is to watch your next meeting and observe.
Yes. Just watch it and observe. So Sarah, think about some of the meetings that you've been in, and I'll ask you a question. Some of the meetings that you've been in that you thought, wow, this could be so much more productive. But it's kind of like video, like us watching ourselves doing the podcast, and we share the video in addition to, the audio for the podcast. You can't learn unless you watch, right, Sarah?
Mm-hmm. You have to look back and look, and unfortunately, sometimes it's a little harder than others. And that's actually, Katherine and I were talking about, like, even just looking in the mirror lately, because you don't even realize what you look like throughout the workday. And now because of Zoom, you notice it. But now when you look back, you're like, oh, I should just change this a little, But it is important to go back and look, and it can help you grow as well. You can see where you started versus where you are. You can also make those changes if you need to make them.
That's so true. And Sarah is a graphic designer and our chief creative officer and officer of social media. Think about when you first started doing design work as to now. It's like me with my public speaking. I look back at some of my speeches. So how can we be a team without looking and watching ourselves perform as a team?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I love that one. I love number 4.
Yes, that's what like Katherine has previously mentioned, I usually would stay quiet and observe a room and be able to read it. And I recall several times, even my husband says now, he's like, you can read a room like nobody's business. And I said, all you have to do is sit back and watch it, just kind of sit back and watch how everybody is playing their dynamic. It doesn't mean that you can't participate. It just watch the culture in which is displayed in front of you before you go ahead and make your move in, and just kind of see how it goes. And if you don't like the way that it's going, express it. That's what they're for.
And Sarah, I love that because you are so good at reading the room. And that is so important because a case came up, and we use this in teaching. An NFL team had an older player who did a lot of hazing for the new members of the football team. So the rookies, and they call them rookie. And the rookies, there was one that just was very silent and wasn't, communicating, and then ended up telling HR of that National Football League team that they were being bullied. And they interviewed the older member who was in charge of, he was always in charge of the rookies, and he thought all the rookies loved him. And the guy was so convinced. He's like, oh, that rookie loves me. That rookie thinks I'm great. He did not know, he wasn't reading body language. He wasn't looking at everything he said and how this player would like almost cringe. And this is a national case. When we're not able to read the room, when we're not watching, we're not observing, we're missing how to build relationship. Now, if you're listening to us today and saying, that's exhausting, I want to be able to say what I want to say. You want to be able to say what you want to say so you can have influence and persuade and get your ideas across and be able to work as a team. And I was the person who at a young age was very excited about my ideas. And when I took literally, I had to take it to a point when I became a manager of doing what you did, Sarah, at a young age, watching and listening and observing. Because we will talk to people and you will know by reading the room that someone has been offended or someone's upset or doesn't feel valued. You know it because you listened and observed. You were inquisitive. That's why we have to have an inquisitive culture. But the person who's saying it is like, oh yeah, everybody loves me. So at the end of the day, I love that tip. Thank you, Sarah.
Yeah, absolutely. There's been a couple situations where I've noticed you can tell that someone they'll do like that lighthearted chuckle, but you can see, in the way that they display, the way that their body language is, you can tell if they approach you after that. And if they don't, someone's feelings got hurt, which kind of leads into the final tip is, have you asked your team what makes them feel valued?
Oh, so good. So good. What are your thoughts on that one? Because I have a story, but I want to know what you think.
So the word value actually has been like a very prevalent thing this whole week. Catherine and I have been like emailing back and forth about the podcast and everything. And I sat there and I remember reading that, and I always, and this is maybe like a fault of my own until like, everyone's always growing, but I always look up like tips on how to make people feel valued. And I'm always like, oh, if I do this, and you can always try different things. But I guess I've never just asked them, like, I've never like looked at myself in the mirror and reviewed that, maybe then just coming to the table with a bunch of tips versus just coming out and asking what would make them feel better would have changed the whole dynamic, instead of trying to like, just, I don't know, like, I felt like maybe then I was almost speaking out too much and I didn't let them have the floor. So now,
I love
yeah.
Well, that's well said. And Sarah, we've all been there. We've all been there. And it's like kind of like gift giving, only not without a gift. So I want to tell a story. My friend Donna and I, at Christmas, this is years ago, we got each other gifts that honestly, I think we loved. And we thought that, and we both looked at each other and were like, do you want to trade? Like, we have that kind of relationship. I think that's the case. I know that in our training, we work on that ask. It is not an easy ask because, and again, it has to be done one-on-one, because if everybody in the company, and there's the love languages, you're probably familiar with that. Some people love gifts. Some people love compliments. Some people love acts of service. Some people love quality time. And if you ask a team all at once what everybody loves, then people might answer differently in front of others. But in the one-on-one, we've been working, and this is actually the account I work on a huge marketing campaign. A lot of people listen to the podcast know we own a marketing and PR firm, but we work also on that team training, that brand plus team equals revenue. And one of the clients said, we just hired somebody and, I want to make sure this employee does well. And I said, that is awesome. I love that you're asking me, because they said, what should we do? And I said, ask them how they would feel valued. What can you do to make them feel valued? And the answer was compliments, and compliments in front of others. That was what they loved. More so even, this is what the new employee said, more so even than a huge pay raise. Shocking, right? Wouldn't you think that most people would want that? But the person had come from a company where they never got any recognition, especially in front of other people. It was demeaning to them because that was their need. And I want to give a shout out because I teach at OMS, Ohio Media School, and Janice gave me this shout out. She's the assistant campus director. It was so nice. I mean, I felt so valued. It was so great. It was about some the marketing class I'm teaching. And I thought, wow. And I wrote a note, an email to the campus director, John, to let him know that Janice is an angel. She's been so good to me. She's wonderful. And she just really made me feel valued. I took the time to do that. Janice didn't ask me to do that. I took the time to do that. So when we value people and we have asked them how they want to be valued, and then we do it, I mean, who knows what they'll do? Look at me. I wrote a letter to her boss, or an email to her boss, saying that made me feel so valued. It made me feel so a part of the team. It was wonderful. So we look at people and say, okay, what are your needs? We need to read the body language, but we also need to ask them and then let that flow. Good things happen when we do that. So thank you for letting me share that story, because, that feeling of value, that's incredible. That's wonderful. It really is. And I love these 5 tips because I think they really bring together just some quick things that you can implement today. These are fast. And again, Miracle Resources is always here. Our team of trainers always here to help you all the way through this. And a lot of times it has so much to do with our number one goal, and that is creating an inquisitive culture where we listen and observe. That's the key.
Absolutely. I think that I just love the idea of asking how someone would feel valued, because I almost feel as if you sat down with another employee in that moment, you would be creating such a great workplace relationship as well, because you're being straightforward. What can I do to make you feel valued? How can I make you feel like you are a part of this? Because we want you to feel a part of this. And I think that I don't know, like it just like clicked in my head. Cause like I said, this week I've been, even like in my personal life and even in workplace, I've been sitting there like, what do I do? And I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why don't I just ask the person? Because they'll be able to tell me. And even if they can't articulate it, you can go through small exercises to figure out what does make them feel valued too. And I think that's also something that Miracle Resources is great at helping with, is helping find how to make your workplace feel value. Because when, like, perfect example is what happened to you this week. You felt valued, and that individual didn't even think of anything of it, and now she got like she got something in return, and she was not, and there's no like expectation that would happen, and it was a great scenario. And it's a wonderful example of how a team can work together and build each other up. And when you build each other up, all there is success.
And Sarah, do you feel, and this is what cracks me up, we do these trainings and our work is always workplace culture, but it cracks me up how many people write to us and say, I use this in my marriage. I use this with a family member. I use this idea. And we love that. Okay. Yeah. I'm not a relationship coach. I am a team building coach. But I think that's important, because if we ask ourselves, did I make that person feel valued? And then I'm going to ask you, Sarah, and our audience, before you see us next month, I want to challenge you. And I want you to write us back and tell us, is there a greater gift than valuing someone? Is there something that you could give that's better than making someone feel valued? And I'm dying to know, do you think there's a greater gift than valuing someone? Is there anything greater you can give to someone?
I might have to think on it, but honestly, like when I sit back, I'm like, I don't really.
And we're going to give you guys time on this one. We'll give Sarah time too. So our MailChimp will come out after. Sarah puts that out with the podcast. And I think the headline should say, is there a greater gift that you can give someone than valuing them? Now, of course, we can say it shorter than that, but that is a really powerful question. Is there a greater gift? And I know somebody's thinking, well, buy me a Lamborghini. Well, you're showing me your value by buying me a Lamborghini, but is the Lamborghini a greater gift than being valued? I don't think so. I think being valued means that, you're a cherished member of a team, that you're valued, you have a safety and a sense of security. So let's look at the workplace. When we feel valued and we feel a part of, we are going to stay, we're going to be loyal, we're going to go above and beyond, right? So, Sarah, I should give you more time since I just sprung this on you, but I think for all of you, the challenge is, ask yourself, is there a greater gift than being valued or giving value? Can you give a greater gift than that? So that's what I want to know for next month.
I don't know. I guess honestly, okay, so I think about this in personal stance because I do use these tips in my family life, and I have an 8-year-old stepson, and I can say that I can buy him the biggest and baddest Lego set, and he will be excited, but I can make him something out of, like his favorite t-shirt that he wore as a little child, and it's his favorite thing, and he outgrew it and he misses wearing it. So I made it into a stuffed animal.
Did
Yeah.
you?
So it's a pet dragon. Well, this little pet dragon that is maybe like it didn't like value on a dollar amount, totally different, right? Legos are so expensive. He carries around that dragon more than anything else. And it was one of those moments where I said, he feels more value or valued, I guess, in a small little gift that was made for him than the biggest, baddest Lego set. So to me, I don't think you can, like, I guess in my perspective, like my immediate response, I don't think you can gauge value on any scale because it is how that person feels. And he was so overjoyed and he takes care of his little dragon and it is his little thing. Like, and that was one of those moments where I realized I was like, I could show value without doing big and exorbitant things to try and put on a facade. Some people are happy with it, don't get me wrong, but it was one of those moments where I said, I think the value is how he feels valued.
I
And
love the little dragon. You're
yeah,
such a great stepmom. And you're right. The time that you took to make it and that when he holds it, he thinks of you.
yeah.
And for our audience, you guys have interacted with us and written to us. And, I take a lot of the confidential questions. A lot of what I hear and I want to share with you is the moments spent. We're all that friend. Okay. So let's talk about that. Some people are that friend who you help your friends move. You always get that phone call. You have the bigger vehicle. You're the one who's going to help people move. Some people are the friend that, they make, like, I make an incredible lasagna, just saying. I don't make a lot of things well. I have like 9 things I make well, actually 17, now 17, but I make this killer lasagna. It is so good. My friend Rhonda gave me the recipe when I was in college. It's awesome. And people will say, can you bring that lasagna? Now, each one of us has that thing we bring or do. For me, mostly, I'm the friend who, when things go wrong, I get that phone call and they'll say something happened at work. I need to talk it through, or my boss said this. What do you think they mean? I get that call. I get the call of our marketing numbers are down. Our product revenue's down. Can you give me some marketing tips? I am that person you call. I love being that person. I'm honored to be that person. I love getting that phone call because I know that I can help them strategize and discover together some solutions. So that value that you bring, they may remember. I remember calling you when I thought I was going to lose my job and you helped me. They'll never forget that. Like Sarah, he will never forget that little dragon. I mean, that is so powerful. And the fact that you took the time, you're always there to listen. That's key. That's what people want. You give them the eye contact, you listen to them, you observe them. And again, that's what inquisitive culture is about. And I know a lot of people think inquisitive is, questions and you're going to be questioned on the spot. No, it's listening, observing, and asking the right question, not a question that's offensive, but a question that gets to the core of the real problem. So, Sarah, you're incredible. I love that little pet dragon.
little dragon, my little value
I
dragon.
wish you had it and you could show it. We'd love to
I
see.
so well, yeah. So my stepson's up in Ohio. I'm in North Carolina, but it's this cute little dragon, and it actually sits on his shoulder, so he gets to walk around with it. And then he loves Harry Potter, so if there's any Harry Potter fans in our audience, his name is Norbert. So Norbert will be down here this summer. So maybe in June in the episode, I'll have him sit on my shoulder. But anyway, yeah, like it's not about grilling people with questions. It's just asking the right question that just blows the case wide open. It's all this is. It's not meant to be like grill after grill after grill. It's just, let's get to the root of it and let's figure out how to work together in a better environment. And that could go for anything. Because think about it, your teams are your family members, your teams are in your workplace. It's everywhere around you. So you want to create that environment.
And Sarah, you made me think of this. The big thing about, and Sarah said it so well, the questions are not grilling questions. When someone calls me and they say, I wrote this email and then my boss acted really weird and everybody acted really weird. And then I got called in the office and yelled at. And my question is, how did you feel about that? Then I'm going to get to the core of what this person is feeling. And they're saying, well, I did this work and I was feeling angry, and they're getting that all out so we can move forward and then come up with a strategy. So I do believe in questions that let you dream and discover, like appreciative inquiry. Totally believe in that, but there's a place for that. Then there's a place for, when you guys, many of you have read the book, Inquisitive Culture, there's a place for asking a question that gets to the core of it. And it's not grilling. I like that word, Sarah. That's so good. It's not intensive. It's not upsetting. It's a question of getting to the core of the problem so we can move forward. The key is always move forward. So thank you for that, Sarah. That's awesome.
Absolutely. Like there was a situation with a fellow friend of mine that he got called into an office and they started grilling him with questions. And he could not come out and say what was going on in the workplace because he felt as though when you just like asked all these random questions, he just felt like he closed up and they didn't read the room. And unfortunately, it was a situation that ended badly. Well, the one thing that changed is he walked out of the office and went home. And after he got home, you could tell he was all upset. He was calling me. He's like, I don't know what to do. And he goes, hold on a second. And I said, okay, and I'm on the phone, and he switches to the other line. It was someone that was sitting in on the meeting that saw that he shut down and saw that he closed up. And he called him and said, I know the meeting's over, but I don't want you to go home like that. Do you want to talk about this? And it was one of those moments where I said, there's a leader. Okay, like there it is, you know? And it was one of those moments where as soon as he switched over back to the other line, he's like, I feel better. He's like, and he stopped complaining and he stopped getting in a bad mood because someone just asked him the right question. And even though it was after the meeting, he's like, I don't want him to walk away with a chip on his shoulder. And he was watching it happen. So,
and that's the best value you can provide.
Yeah. And now
that's the best.
Yes. And now my friend only speaks highly of that person and says, this person went above and beyond and made me feel so much better after that meeting went so wrong. And it wasn't, like I said, he did not ask, that was not the person that asked him a million questions. All he did was ask the right question of, how do you feel? Because I saw you close up and I don't want you to do that here. And it was like amazing. And now all of a sudden it's a new chapter and rejuvenation in him. And now he's so excited to go back to work, and he's excited to work with that person because that person showed value like instantaneously and went out of his way after everyone was off of work and said, is it okay? Like that bothered him. And it was wonderful. And I just sat there, I was like, oh, there's hope. You know?
That is the best story. I'm glad you shared it because we need to do that for each other. We need to be allies. That's how we form allies. And in workplaces, when we have people exhibiting the great behavior that you just shared, then other people will do it. And that changes the culture. Culture is not a statement on a piece of paper. This is our team culture. Even an award won for culture. Ask your frontline workers and your employees, what is the culture? If they cannot answer that, they don't have training in that, I don't care how many awards you win, and I don't care what your culture statement, vision statement is. What we want is we want individual training and team training, so that way we can work together. Because Sarah, that what was displayed was awesome. That was total value. I love this this month's topic of value. I love it. So I'm really excited because when Sarah puts out the MailChimp, you guys will be able to, those who are listening on the podcast, you'll also be able to see the video. So that way, you can see our facial expressions and read the body language. But I do want to leave everybody with that challenge. Is there a greater gift than to be valued?
I was going to say, let us know I want to know what everyone thinks of that because I'm stumped. So.
Me too. These things come in my head. What can I say? But yeah, and I put Sarah on the spot. Sorry, that it is a tough question.
Oh, I know.
And that's a question because it gets to the core. And when you do not feel valued, what happens? People shut down. They don't communicate. So we've got to make sure people feel valued. And it's not that it takes a lot of time and it doesn't take a lot of money. It's a culture. It's a style. It's using those resources. It's communication. It doesn't have to be big gifts. It has so much more to do with encouragement and listening and observing.
Exactly. It's all about what you bring to the table. I love it. But yes, answer that question, please, because I'm stumped and I don't know what to do. Because I don't care if I got put on the spot. I don't know if next month I'd even have an answer for it. But I would love to hear other people's comments on that because I think that it's a great conversation starter because it's going to be like that awkward silence and everyone's going to go, So, but all right. Well, I think we're about done here. I think we've covered value, but I absolutely love it. I love that word now. So
it's a favorite. It's definitely a favorite. Helps in all your relationships, everyone.
I was going to say really personal, professional. I'm done. Thanks for listening this month. You can find us on all your social media. Keep a lookout for that LinkedIn article as well as the MailChimp coming out. If you're listening to just the audio, I recommend finding this video because then you can read our body language and you can become inquisitive to us, which is kind of a scary task. But anyway, okay.
Well, thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Hey, everybody, it's Sarah from the podcast. If you'd like to submit your stories, you can send them to km@miracleresources.com with the subject line Inquisitive Your Miracle Resource. We'd love to hear from you if you have any struggling workplace problems. You will remain completely anonymous, and in the stories, all the names will change. We'd love to hear from you, and we will see you back here next month. Bye.